Have you ever made a decision in anger, fear, or sadness, only to regret it later? Many lives are destroyed not because of lack of talent or opportunity, but because emotions took control in critical moments. The problem we are going to solve today is this: how do you stop being a slave to your emotions and start training your mind to rise above them? Because until your mind is stronger than your emotions, your future will always be at risk. Every human being has been given the gift of thought, and that gift is far greater than any fleeting emotion. Emotions are powerful, yes, but they are also temporary, inconsistent, and often misleading. A single thought, however, can create an entire destiny, and a single disciplined idea can alter the course of your life. When we speak about training the mind to be stronger than emotions, we are addressing the reality that emotions were never designed to lead. They were given to us to enhance our humanity, to allow us to feel joy, grief, passion, compassion, and even righteous anger. But when emotions sit in the driver's seat, life becomes unstable. Emotions are like the wind. They shift with the environment, the circumstances, or even with a single word someone speaks to you. But thoughts, when anchored in truth, can hold steady no matter how turbulent the storm around you becomes. Consider for a moment the times when you allowed anger to guide your choices. Words you did not mean left your mouth. Actions you later regretted were carried out. Decisions made in rage often destroyed relationships, careers, or opportunities that took years to build. Why did this happen? Because anger, while real, is only a momentary surge of emotion. It comes, it burns, and if left unchecked, it consumes. But your mind, trained to think before reacting, can intercept that fire. A thought rooted in patience can pause your tongue. A thought anchored in wisdom can remind you that silence is sometimes more powerful than words. The mind has the ability to control the flame, but only if it is stronger than the emotion. Fear is another example. Fear often feels overwhelming in the moment. It convinces you that failure is certain, that rejection is inevitable, that risk is too dangerous. But fear is nothing more than an emotion dressed in false evidence. How many dreams have been buried because fear whispered louder than vision? How many people never started the business, never wrote the book, never pursued the calling because fear held them captive? Yet the mind, trained on principles, knows that fear is temporary. It recognizes that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. A thought rooted in faith will outlast the tremors of fear, but only when the mind has been disciplined to lead. The danger is that most people allow emotions to take precedence over thoughts. They live reacting instead of responding. They make decisions in moments of excitement, frustration, or despair, and then spend years trying to recover from the consequences. The mind was given the authority to think, to reason, to calculate, to weigh, and to measure. It was created to filter emotions through the lens of truth and not let temporary feelings dictate permanent choices. When thought leads, emotions can still exist, but they serve rather than control. It is important to understand that training your mind begins with what you feed it. Just as the body grows weak without nourishment, the mind grows weak without the right input. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, with fear-driven voices, with media that amplifies emotions, then do not be surprised when your thoughts become shallow and powerless against the storms of life. But when you feed your mind with wisdom, with principles, with truths that transcend situations, you are building a fortress that emotions cannot easily penetrate. Your mind is like a captain, and your emotions are like waves. The waves will rise and fall. They will crash and roar. But a strong captain knows how to steer the ship no matter the weather, If the captain abandons control, the waves will toss the vessel anywhere they choose. But when the captain holds firmly to the wheel, the waves are managed. They may be loud, they may be forceful, but they are not in control. Training your mind means taking back the wheel of your life from emotions that were never meant to be captains. Think about history. Great leaders, inventors, and pioneers all faced intense emotions. They felt fear, doubt, anger, frustration, and even despair. But what separated them from the rest was their ability to let thought triumph over feeling. They allowed principles, not passions, to govern their decisions. That is why they left legacies, while others left regrets. When your mind is strong, it does not deny emotions. It acknowledges them, but it does not bow to them. It hears the anger, but chooses peace. It feels the fear, but chooses courage. It senses the despair, but chooses hope. This is the power of thought over feeling, the authority to decide your response regardless of your emotion. Until you train your mind to this level of discipline, you will always live at the mercy of how you feel. And feelings are some of the most unreliable guides you could ever follow. One of the greatest gifts a human being can develop is the discipline of the mind. Discipline is not simply about controlling outward behavior. It is about creating the order that governs every response, every decision, and every direction of life. Without discipline, emotions will always have the upper hand. They will rise suddenly, and like a flood without boundaries, they will spill into every part of your life, leaving chaos behind. A disciplined mind, however, becomes the dam that channels those emotions into something useful rather than destructive. Stability in life is not the absence of emotions, but the presence of control. And that control is born out of a trained and disciplined mind. When you study the lives of people who are consistent, steady, and dependable, you will always discover that they have trained their minds to resist the pull of impulses. They do not act on the first emotion that comes to them. Instead, they filter their feelings through discipline. The reason many lives are unstable today is because emotions dictate decisions. One moment of excitement pushes someone into a relationship they should never have entered. One moment of anger drives someone to destroy years of trust. One moment of fear convinces someone to abandon a dream they were destined to pursue. In every case, the common thread is lack of mental discipline. Discipline of the mind is like the foundation of a house. No matter how beautiful the walls, no matter how elaborate the design, if the foundation is weak, the structure will collapse. Emotions are like storms. They will test the foundation of your inner life. Without discipline, every storm will shake you to the point of breaking. But when the foundation is solid, you may feel the wind, you may hear the thunder, but you will remain standing. A disciplined mind does not prevent storms, but it ensures stability in the midst of them. Think about how discipline functions. It is the ability to delay gratification, to resist the urge for instant pleasure or immediate relief in order to secure a greater future reward. Emotions always demand immediacy. They say, do it now, say it now, react now. They press for satisfaction in the moment. But the disciplined mind knows that temporary relief often creates long-term regret. It resists the emotional urge and chooses to wait, to pause, to think. That pause is not weakness, it is power. To control yourself in the moment when your emotions are screaming is one of the highest forms of strength. The mind was designed to lead with vision. Vision is not about what you feel right now. It is about where you are going in the future. Discipline trains the mind to stay focused on that vision, no matter how intense the emotions of the moment may be. Without discipline, vision gets blurred by temporary feelings. A disciplined mind, however, keeps the destination clear. It constantly reminds itself of purpose, of goals, of principles, and it refuses to be swayed by the storm of emotion that might try to pull it off course. This is why stability is so rare. People live up and down because they allow emotions to define their direction. Their joy is dictated by circumstances. Their confidence is dictated by other people's approval. Their peace is dictated by whether things are easy or hard. But a disciplined mind breaks this cycle. It refuses to be moved by temporary highs or lows. It holds steady like an anchor, keeping the soul from drifting away in the tides of feeling. Stability is not built in a day. It is built through repeated choices to discipline the mind over and over again until it becomes natural to respond with thought instead of reaction. Consider a soldier in training. The purpose of military training is not simply to build physical strength. It is to develop mental discipline. A soldier cannot afford to react emotionally on the battlefield. Fear might come, panic might rise, but discipline demands focus, clarity, and composure. The same is true in life. Without discipline, every emotional attack will cause you to retreat, surrender, or make irrational decisions. But with discipline, you remain steady under pressure, and steadiness gives birth to victory. A disciplined mind also creates peace. Many people live in constant turmoil, not because life is always against them, but because their emotions run wild without boundaries. Peace is not found in the absence of problems, it is found in the presence of discipline. When the mind is trained, it does not allow emotions to run unchecked. It brings every feeling under control, aligning them with purpose and principle. That control brings peace because the individual knows they are not at the mercy of whatever they feel. They are in command of themselves, and that self-command radiates stability to every part of their lives. Stability also attracts trust. People trust those who are stable, those who do not change with every emotion. When others know that you will remain steady, even under pressure, you become dependable. Relationships thrive on this kind of stability. Leadership requires this kind of stability. Families are built on this kind of stability. Discipline of the mind is not just for personal benefit. It creates an environment where others can feel safe and secure because they know you will not lose control every time your emotions are tested. Without discipline, emotions will enslave you, but with discipline, emotions will serve you. They will no longer drive your decisions, but they will become fuel for them. Passion, when controlled, becomes energy for purpose. Anger, when controlled, becomes motivation for change. Fear, when controlled, becomes awareness that sharpens your vision. Discipline does not destroy emotions. It redirects them so that they work for you instead of against you. When the mind is disciplined, emotions become tools in the hands of wisdom rather than weapons of destruction in the grip of impulse. One of the greatest lessons every person must come to understand is that emotions are temporary, but principles are eternal. Emotions rise and fall like waves on the ocean. They are here today and gone tomorrow. They are influenced by what you eat, how much you sleep, what someone says to you, or even the weather outside. Yet principles do not change. They remain consistent regardless of the circumstances. The danger many people fall into is that they build their decisions on emotions instead of principles, and in doing so they create lives as unstable as their feelings. When your life is governed by principles, you gain a foundation that nothing can shake. But when your life is governed by emotions, you live at the mercy of constant change. Emotions are powerful, yes, but they are designed to be servants, not masters. They are like indicators on the dashboard of a car. They tell you what is happening in the moment. but they are not the engine that drives you forward. If you let the warning light on the dashboard drive the car, disaster will follow. But when you use emotions as information while letting principles guide your direction, you create stability and progress. For example, anger can reveal injustice, but it cannot tell you what to do about it. Fear can alert you to danger, but it cannot show you how to overcome it. Sadness can express loss, but it cannot determine your future. Only principles can provide that kind of direction. Principles are eternal because they are rooted in truth. Truth is not dependent on how you feel. It stands regardless of your emotion. A principle like integrity does not change because you are tempted to lie. A principle like patience does not vanish because you are in a hurry. A principle like forgiveness does not become irrelevant because you feel hurt. These eternal standards stand whether you feel strong or weak, happy or sad, inspired or discouraged. They provide an anchor for your life so that no matter how intense your emotions may become, you do not drift into destructive choices. Imagine two people standing in a storm. One is standing on sand, the other on solid rock. The storm is the same for both. The rain falls, the wind blows, and the waves crash. But the one on sand collapses, while the one on rock remains standing. The difference is not the absence of storm, but the presence of a foundation. Emotions are like sand. They shift with pressure. Principles are like rock. They remain unshaken. If you build your decisions on emotions, you will always sink in the storm. If you build your decisions on principles, you will always stand no matter how violent the winds of life may be. This is why so many people live in regret. They allow emotions to dictate choices, and when the emotions fade, they are left with consequences they did not want. A moment of passion leads to betrayal. A moment of greed leads to debt. A moment of pride leads to broken relationships. When the emotion is gone, the damage remains. But when you live by principles, you make choices that may not feel easy in the moment, but produce fruit that lasts long after the emotion has passed. The temporary nature of emotions also means they cannot be trusted as a compass. They may be real, but they are not always right. Have you ever felt afraid of something that never happened? Have you ever felt angry only to discover you misunderstood the situation? Have you ever felt excited about a decision only to regret it later? This is proof that emotions, though real, are not reliable guides. Principles, however, are consistent. They do not mislead because they are rooted in truth that transcends the moment. The key, then, is to train your mind to anchor itself in principles rather than emotions. This is not easy because emotions scream louder than principles. Emotions demand immediate attention, while principles whisper steadily in the background. But when you discipline yourself to pause, to reflect, to remember the principles that guide your life, you begin to act from a place of strength rather than reaction. You begin to make decisions that align with truth rather than temporary feelings. Principles also protect you from manipulation. Many people are controlled by others because their emotions are easily swayed. Advertisers, politicians, and even toxic relationships exploit emotions to gain control. They use fear to paralyze, guilt to bind, or flattery to deceive. But when you are anchored in principles, you cannot be easily manipulated. You recognize when someone is appealing to your emotions instead of truth, and you respond with clarity instead of confusion. Principles shield you from becoming a victim of emotional traps. When you live by principles, you create consistency in your character. People can trust you because they know you are not governed by moods. They know you will do what is right even when you don't feel like it. They know you will keep your word even when it is inconvenient. They know you will remain steady even when everything around you is unstable. This consistency is what produces influence, respect, and legacy. The most successful lives are those that are principle-driven, not emotion-driven. Great leaders did not lead because they never felt fear, but because they acted on principles that were stronger than their fear. Great inventors did not create because they never felt discouraged, but because they clung to principles of perseverance that outlasted discouragement. Great parents, great teachers, great builders of nations all understood this one truth. Emotions change daily, but principles endure forever. To train your mind to be stronger than your emotions, you must learn to build your decisions on what will last, not on what is passing. The true strength of the mind is not found in a single act of willpower, but in the daily discipline of renewal and focus. Mastery is not achieved by accident. It is the result of consistent training, just as an athlete strengthens muscles through repeated exercise. The mind grows stronger every day. It is renewed with truth and directed toward focus. And the stronger it becomes, the less power emotions have to control it. Emotions will always come, but a mind that is consistently trained will recognize them, evaluate them, and choose a response rather than surrendering to reaction. Renewal is essential because the mind, like any other part of life, can become weary, clouded, and vulnerable when left unattended. Every day we are bombarded by voices, influences, and pressures that stir up our emotions. The media thrives on amplifying fear, envy, anger, and comparison. The world around us constantly pulls on our feelings, attempting to make us react rather than think. Without renewal, the mind becomes fatigued, and a tired mind is an easy victim for emotional impulses. Renewal is the process of refreshing the mind with truths that are unchanging, principles that endure, and wisdom that grounds you beyond what you feel. Renewal does not happen passively. It requires intentional input. Just as the body cannot be strong if it feeds on unhealthy food, the mind cannot be strong if it consumes negativity, fear, and lies. What you expose yourself to daily shapes the condition of your thoughts. If you allow gossip, destructive entertainment, or fear-driven narratives to be your constant diet, your emotions will always overpower your reasoning. But when you daily renew your mind with principles, uplifting truths, and wisdom, you strengthen your ability to rise above emotions. Renewal gives your mind the fuel it needs to command your emotions instead of being commanded by them. Focus is the second pillar of mastery. A renewed mind without focus will still wander. Emotions love distraction. They thrive when your attention is scattered. Worry pulls you into the future. Regret drags you into the past, and pleasure tempts you to abandon purpose in the present. Focus is the ability to keep your mind centered on what truly matters, even when emotions are trying to pull you away. Without focus, every emotional wave will look important, and you will find yourself reacting to everything. With focus, you are anchored. You know what deserves your attention and what does not, and you refuse to be moved by feelings that do not serve your vision. Think of focus like the lens of a camera. A camera without focus will capture a blurry image, even if the subject is right in front of it. But when the lens is adjusted and directed, the image becomes clear. In the same way, a mind without focus sees life through the blur of emotions. Everything feels urgent, overwhelming, and confusing. But when the mind focuses, clarity appears. You begin to see which emotions are distractions, which are signals, and which can be harnessed for good. Focus allows you to filter out noise and keep your energy directed toward what truly matters. Renewal and focus together create mastery because they work hand in hand. Renewal strengthens your thoughts. while focus directs them. Renewal fills your mind with truth, while focus keeps your attention on that truth when emotions try to sway you. Renewal builds the inner strength to resist emotions, while focus ensures that strength is used for the right purposes. Without renewal, your focus will eventually weaken because the mind runs dry. Without focus, your renewal will lack direction and emotions will still pull you off course. Mastery comes when both are present, working daily to create a mind that is stable, sharp, and stronger than any emotion. Mastery also requires practice. Just as no athlete becomes strong by training once, the mind does not become disciplined after a single act of control. Every time you choose thought over feeling, you are exercising your mind. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose principle over impulse, every time you stay focused on vision instead of surrendering to distraction, you are building mastery. Over time, these small decisions accumulate, and the mind becomes naturally stronger than emotions. The moments that once overwhelmed you will no longer control you because your mind has been trained through repetition to lead instead of follow. A mastered mind does not deny emotions. It understands them. It sees anger but channels it into action for justice instead of destruction. It feels fear but uses it as a signal to prepare rather than a command to retreat. It senses sadness but allows it to deepen compassion rather than sink into despair. Mastery is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to place emotion in its proper place under the leadership of a disciplined, renewed, and focused mind. The ultimate goal of mastery is freedom. When emotions rule, you are enslaved to whatever you feel in the moment. You cannot choose clearly because your choices are dictated by shifting feelings. But when your mind is renewed daily and trained to focus, you break free from that slavery. You gain the ability to choose actions aligned with vision, not with impulses. You begin to live not as a victim of emotions, but as a master of them. Renewal clears the fog, focus directs the path, and mastery empowers you to rise above the storm of emotions that once controlled you. The strength of your life will always be measured by the strength of your mind. Emotions were never designed to lead you. They were given to add color and depth to your humanity. But when they become the masters, they create instability, regret, and brokenness. The mind, however, when trained, becomes the anchor that holds steady in every storm. By understanding the power of thought over feeling, you begin to realize that emotions are temporary guests, while your thoughts shape destiny. Through discipline, you create the stability that emotions can never provide, because discipline resists impulse and builds consistency. By grounding yourself in eternal principles, you stand on a foundation that cannot be shaken, no matter how strong the emotions may rage. And when you renew and focus your mind daily, you develop mastery, the ability to channel emotions as servants of purpose rather than rulers of life. The journey to a stronger mind is not a one-time event, but a continual process of training, renewing, and choosing. Each day presents the choice: will you be governed by the shifting tides of emotion, or will you rise to live by the strength of a disciplined, principled, and focused mind